Thanos wins. The story of Thanos wins centers on the Mad Titan's ultimate victory, as he achieves absolute dominion by wiping out nearly all life in the universe to impress Mistress Death. The events take place in a future timeline known as Earth TRN 666, a dark extension of the main Marvel universe. Here, Thanos has slaughtered nearly every living being and now rules uncontested at the end of time. His power is so absolute that even the Hulk is reduced to nothing more than a mindless pet, shackled at his master's feet. However, despite his triumph, King Thanos still isn't satisfied. Seeking to finally reunite with Mistress Death, he summons his younger self through the help of a cosmic-powered Ghost Rider and a fractured piece of the Time Stone. His request is for his past self to kill him and end his reign, but young Thanos is horrified by what he sees. Rather than granting his future self's wish, he refuses, returning to his own time with a new vow. He will never allow himself to become the desperate, broken figure he encountered. Before he departs, however, there is one last battle to fight. The last remaining challenger to Thanos' rule emerges, the Fallen One, a future version of the Silver Surfer, now wielding Thor's legendary hammer. The fight is brutal, but in the end, the most striking aspect of Thanos wins isn't the action. It's the irony of Thanos discovering that even ultimate victory is hollow. Despite its striking visuals and intense storytelling, Thanos wins treads familiar ground. Marvel has explored similar post-apocalyptic villain-dominated futures in stories like Marvel Zombies and Old Man Logan. While the premise is engaging, it ultimately serves as another high-stakes, officially sanctioned what-if scenario rather than breaking new ground in Marvel's cosmic lore. Thanos Wins was released in 2017 and written by Donny Cates as a trade paperback, compiling issues 13 to 18 of the Thanos comic series published by Marvel Comics, a subsidiary of Disney. Age of Apocalypse. In the vast world of Marvel Comics, few villains are as power-hungry and ruthless as Ensaba Nur, better known as Apocalypse. His name alone tells you everything you need to know. A nearly immortal mutant, Apocalypse has been a persistent and dangerous threat to the X-Men, pushing his philosophy of survival of the fittest to terrifying extremes. His reign of terror unfolds in Age of Apocalypse, a storyline that begins when David Haller, better known as Legion, decides to change the past. The unstable mutant son of Professor Xavier travels back in time with one goal: to kill Magneto before he ever becomes a threat. But things don't go as planned. Legion arrives at a point when Magneto and Xavier are still allies in Israel, and when he makes his move, Xavier sacrifices himself to save his friend. Legion vanishes. A new timeline is created, and only one person, time-traveling mutant Bishop, is aware that history has been rewritten. With Xavier gone, Magneto takes on his dream of peaceful coexistence between humans and mutants. But Apocalypse, who had been waiting for the perfect moment, chooses this as his time to strike. In this altered timeline, his war of conquest begins 10 years earlier than it was supposed to. Magneto forms the X-Men in a desperate attempt to fight back, but Apocalypse proves unstoppable. His forces overrun North America, mutants become the ruling class, and humans are either exterminated or enslaved. His genocidal campaign, called the Cullings, wipes out millions. To prevent anyone from reversing what has happened, he systematically hunts down and eliminates all telepaths and time travelers. Meanwhile, the instability in the timeline causes a devastating reaction from the McCrane crystal, threatening to destroy everything. Technically, Age of Apocalypse takes place in an alternate universe, Earth 295, the result of Legion's unintended mistake. But that hardly matters. This mid-90s event remains one of Marvel's most enduring stories, offering a glimpse of a world where Apocalypse gets exactly what he wants. And what happens when he does? Humanity is nearly wiped out. The planet is left divided. Apocalypse rules North America with an iron grip, while the last remnants of humanity survive under the Human High Council. In the end, Bishop manages to restore the original timeline, but Earth 295 isn't erased. It lingers in Marvel's lore, resurfacing whenever the company decides to bring it back for another round of destruction. Dark Knights Death Metal. Dark Knights Death Metal is a 2020 to 2021 comic book event published by DC Comics, featuring a central miniseries written by Scott Snyder and illustrated by Greg Capullo, along with numerous tie-in stories. The 7-issue main series ran from June 16, 2020 to January 5, 2021. True to Snyder and Capullo's signature style, Death Metal is completely over the top in a way that comic fans can't help but love. The story kicks off with the Batman Who Laughs gaining control of Prime Earth thanks to Perpetua, the cosmic entity responsible for the creation of the DC multiverse. Under his rule, reality is reshaped reshaped into the terrifying Metalverse, a twisted nightmare world where Gotham City has expanded into a continent-sized wasteland ruled by Joker dragons. Superman is imprisoned on New Apokolips to serve as a power source, and the Arkham Wastelands remain drenched in radiation after Captain Atom's catastrophic explosion. As the final battle unfolds, Wonder Woman, now clad in golden armor, faces off against the Darkest Knight, the ultimate evolved form of the Batman who laughs, in a fight that spans across time and space. Their clash takes them to the very moment of creation, where the Darkest Knight reveals that Perpetua's people, cosmic beings known as the Hands, are preparing to erase the universe entirely. He gives Diana a choice: either continue fighting and risk complete destruction, or join forces with him to eliminate the Hands and remake existence in their image. Refusing to surrender, Diana forces him through time, pushing him into the collapsing embers of Earth's dying sun. Back on Earth, the battle rages on. Batman raises his Bat family and enemies from the dead to take on the Robin King. Lex Luthor sacrifices himself to save Superman from the monstrous Last Sun, and bizarre resurrected figures like B-Rex and Batmigger enter the fray. As Diana finally shoves the Darkest Knight into an enormous red sun, obliterating him, she awakens in a white void where she is met by a hand appearing as her Golden Age counterpart. The entity explains that her defiance has convinced them to reconsider their ways, leading to the restoration of the entire multiverse. Every past event and story is now part of a new reality, one without limits, without barriers. But there is a cost. Diana must ascend to a higher plane, standing watch for any future threats. Meanwhile, Earth celebrates. In the Hall of Justice, heroes and villains alike gather to mark their victory. Fallen characters return, Darkseid is seemingly gone, and what was once the multiverse is now something even greater. An omniverse, an infinite frontier of possibilities. Even Prime Earth is no longer at the center of existence. Another powerful source of multiversal energy may exist elsewhere, possibly on an Elseworld. The crossover received widespread acclaim, with critics praising its high-energy storytelling, dynamic artwork, action-packed sequences, and satisfying conclusion. As the grand finale to the 5-year Dark Multiverse saga, Dark Knight's death metal closes out the New Justice era with a chaotic metal-fueled bang. Final Crisis. Final Crisis is a 2008 crossover storyline published by DC Comics, primarily unfolding in a 7-issue miniseries written by Grant Morrison. The series explores a cosmic-scale catastrophe as Darkseid enacts his ultimate plan to overthrow reality itself, leading to the corruption and destruction of various DC heroes, villains, and even the fundamental structure of the universe. The story begins with a paradox. Darkseid dies. However, he is so powerful that even in death, his spirit begins to drag the entire multiverse down with it, pulling everything backward in time. As his soul and those of his most loyal subjects, Granny Goodness, Glorious Godfrey, Desaad, and others are reincarnated on Earth, Darkseid takes the opportunity to kill his own son, Orion. By this point, he has acquired the dreaded anti-life equation, a cosmic formula that allows him to subjugate all living beings to his will. With Superman temporarily off-world in a desperate attempt to save Lois Lane, Darkseid makes his move. He orchestrates a scheme to frame Hal Jordan for the attempted murder of Jon Stewart, captures Batman with the intent of cloning an army of obedient Batmen, and takes over the body of Dan Turpin, slowly corrupting him until he becomes Darkseid's new physical vessel. As Darkseid fully assumes control of Turpin's body, Batman escapes captivity and retrieves a gun loaded with a crucial bullet, the same god-killing bullet Darkseid had used to slay Orion. In an act of defiance, Batman shoots Darkseid, wounding him gravely. However, before succumbing, Darkseid unleashes his Omega Sanction, seemingly erasing Batman from existence. Even with his body failing, Darkseid's influence refuses to fade. Enter the Flashes, Barry Allen and Wally West, who have been outrunning the Black Flash, a grim Reaper-like entity of the Speed Force. Together, they lead the Black Flash directly to Darkseid, but not even death itself can fully extinguish him. While Dan Turpin's body dies, Darkseid's soul continues its apocalyptic descent, dragging the entire fabric of time and space into a cosmic black hole. The multiverse's last hope arrives arrives in the form of Superman, who has returned from his journey across time and dimensions armed with a crucial piece of knowledge: the design of the Miracle Machine, an all-powerful device capable of reshaping reality. Using the solar energy stored within his body, Superman activates the Miracle Machine with a single word, finally halting Darkseid's downward spiral. But before the multiverse can be fully restored, a final, even greater threat emerges. The Monitors, cosmic beings tasked with observing the multiverse, harbor a dark secret. They are not merely passive overseers. They actively feed on the multiverse's energy. The most powerful of them, overwhelmed by this energy, mutates into Mandrak, a monstrous vampire-like entity bent on consuming all of existence. It takes the combined might of heroes from across multiple universes, along with the noble Monitor Dax Novu, to bring Mandrak down for good. With Mandrak destroyed, the Miracle Machine is able to reboot the multiverse this time, without Darkseid's lingering corruption. Old Man Logan. This story arc of Wolverine Volume 3 spanned from issue 66 to issue 72, and ended with Wolverine, Old Man Logan, Giant Size issue 1. It was written by comic superstar Mark Miller, and went on to inspire multiple volumes and other Old Man spin-offs like Old Man Hawkeye and Old Man Quill. In the dystopian future of this story arc, decades after the fall of superheroes, the United States has been taken over by supervillains and split into territories. Among them, the Red Skull has crowned himself president, hoarding trophies of fallen heroes in a twisted display of his victories. His reign comes to a brutal end when Wolverine, wielding Captain America's shield, decapitates him in a final confrontation. 50 years prior, Logan was at the X-Mansion when a massive explosion killed Jubilee. As a full roster of X-Men villains stormed the mansion, Wolverine went into a berserker rage, cutting them all down, only to discover too late that it was an illusion crafted by Mysterio. The enemies he thought he had slain were actually his own teammates. Shattered by the truth, Logan abandoned his past, swearing never to use his claws again, and attempted to take his own life, only to fail. Now living in Hulkland, formerly Sacramento, California, Logan tries to maintain a peaceful life with his wife, Maureen, and their two children, Scotty and Jade. But his family's survival depends on paying rent to the land's rulers, the inbred descendants of Bruce Banner and She-Hulk. Struggling to make ends meet, Logan agrees to a job from an aging blind Hawkeye, escorting him across the country to deliver a mysterious package. Their journey takes them through a ruined America, where villains like the new Kingpin, Doctor Doom, and the Red Skull rule with an iron fist. When they finally reach their destination, New Babylon, Hawkeye's secret cargo is revealed, the super soldier serum, meant to fuel a resistance. But it was all a setup. Hawkeye is executed, and Logan is captured, waking up in the Red Skull's lair. In a moment of brutal clarity, Logan breaks his pacifist vow, using Captain America's shield to decapitate the Red Skull. He escapes in Iron Man's armor, racing home with the reward money, only to find his family slaughtered by the Hulk gang. Consumed by vengeance, Logan finally unsheathes his claws for the first time in 50 years. One by one, he wipes out the Hulk's inbred offspring before tracking down Bruce Banner himself, now an aging but formidable powerhouse. Banner, having orchestrated the slaughter just to provoke a final battle, easily overpowers Logan in his human form. But when Wolverine lands a strike, Banner transforms into the Hulk and devours him whole. Time passes. The Hulk, believing himself victorious, plans to rebuild his twisted empire, until Wolverine, fully regenerated, carves his way out of Banner's stomach, killing him from the inside. The story ends with Logan riding off into the wasteland with Bruce Banner Jr., Banner's last surviving child, hinting at a new chapter in Wolverine's journey. Old Man Logan has proven to be one of the most popular X-Men storylines of the past 20 years. Heck, it's proven to be one of the most popular Marvel storylines of the past 20 years. Emperor Joker. At the dawn of the 2000s, DC Comics kicked things off with the crossover event Emperor Joker, a storyline that saw the clown prince of crime ascend to godhood after tricking Mr. Mxyzptlk into handing over nearly all of his reality warping powers. With this newfound omnipotence, Joker reshaped the universe to match his deranged vision, creating a world where he ruled supreme, and where Batman was trapped in an endless cycle of torment, killed and resurrected daily for Joker's amusement. But in his quest to utterly destroy reality, the one thing that ultimately unraveled his control was his his obsession with the Dark Knight. That hesitation proved to be his downfall, giving Superman the opening he needed to turn the tide. The very idea of Joker wielding unlimited power is pure nightmare fuel. With no limits, he rewrote the entire world, twisting beloved heroes beyond recognition. Superman, framed as a villain for murdering Lex Luthor, found himself locked in Arkham Asylum, constantly breaking out only to be subdued by Bizarro. His closest allies suffered cruel fates. Lois Lane was reimagined as a ruthless corporate mogul. Steel was imprisoned for thinking too rationally. Supergirl became a nun, and Superboy was stuck flipping burgers under Guardian's management. Even Jimmy Olsen, once Superman's loyal pal, was transformed into Gravedigger Lad, a devoted follower of the Joker's reign. But cracks began to form. Superman's memories started resurfacing, allowing him to snap some of his former allies out of their altered states. The road to resistance was brutal. His friends were killed, revived, and in some cases turned into animals. Lois, despite a deep connection with Superman, ultimately betrayed him and became Joker's Empress. Yet, no matter what horrors the Joker threw his way, Superman refused to break. The villain even forced him to relive visions of losing control and killing everyone he loved, but it wasn't enough to shatter him. Instead, Superman saw through the madness and uncovered the Joker's greatest weakness, his own inability to truly control the power he had stolen. In a final stroke of genius, Superman tricked Joker into surrendering his godlike abilities, much like how he usually outsmarts Mxyzptlk. With the power stripped away, Mxyzptlk and the Spectre restored reality, wiping away Joker's chaotic rule. When it was all over, only Superman retained the memory of what had transpired, a lingering reminder of just how close the world had come to complete annihilation at the hands of a madman. Knightfall. In 1993, DC Comics launched Knightfall, a major Batman story arc that chronicled Batman's physical and psychological downfall at the hands of Bane, a brutal new villain who devised a methodical plan to break the Dark Knight. Pushed beyond his limits, Bruce Wayne suffered a devastating defeat, leading to his temporary replacement by Jean-Paul Valley, also known as Azrael. However, Jean-Paul's aggressive and unstable nature tarnished Batman's legacy, forcing Bruce to reclaim his mantle after an arduous recovery. The story kicked off with Bane executing a calculated assault on Gotham. Rather than facing Batman head-on, Bane freed every dangerous inmate of Arkham Asylum, overwhelming the Caped Crusader with a relentless crime wave. Gotham spiraled into chaos as Batman was forced to battle a gauntlet of adversaries, including the Joker, Scarecrow, Riddler, Poison Ivy, and many others. As Batman threw himself into the fight, refusing help from Robin, his strength and resilience steadily eroded. In a desperate attempt to rescue Mayor Kroll from the combined forces of Joker and Scarecrow, Batman was exposed to Scarecrow's fear toxin, forcing him to relive the traumatic death of Jason Todd, his greatest failure. Exhausted and mentally drained, Batman was left vulnerable for Bane's final strike. Having already deduced Bruce Wayne's secret identity, Bane stormed Wayne Manor and confronted Batman in the Batcave. In Batman issue 497, their brutal one-on-one battle reached its climax as Bane mercilessly beat Bruce before delivering the ultimate blow, lifting him over his head and breaking his spine over his knee. With Gotham watching, Bane tossed the broken Batman from a rooftop, asserting his dominance over the city. Thanks to the quick intervention of Robin and Alfred, Bruce survived but was left paralyzed. With Batman out of commission, Bane seized full control of Gotham's criminal underworld. However, his reign was short-lived. Bruce appointed Jean-Paul Valley as his successor, but Jean-Paul's ruthless and violent methods alienated allies and tarnished Batman's reputation. Ultimately, Bruce, after undergoing an arduous recovery through paranormal means, returned to reclaim his mantle and put an end to both Bane and Jean-Paul's dangerous reign. Dark Reign. Dark Reign was a major Marvel Comics storyline that ran from 2008 to 2009, unfolding in the aftermath of Secret Invasion. With the Skrull invasion leaving Earth in chaos, the power dynamics of the Marvel Universe shifted dramatically, placing Norman Osborn, longtime Spider-Man villain and master manipulator, at the helm of global security. Taking advantage of his newfound status, Osborn dismantled S.H.I.E.L.D. and replaced it with Hammer, while assembling a team of villains disguised as heroes under the banner of the Avengers. For nearly a year in the comics, Dark Reign saw Osborn at the peak of his influence, masquerading as the heroic Iron Patriot and wielding his authority with unchecked ambition. Osborn's ambitions extended beyond bureaucratic power. He forged an alliance known as the Cabal, consisting of Dr. Doom, Emma Frost, Namor, Loki, and the Hood, each of whom sought to use Osborn's influence for their own ends. However, as his rule grew more oppressive, both heroes and villains alike conspired to bring bring him down, culminating in a dramatic struggle to strip Osborn of his power by any means necessary. Defying direct orders from the President of the United States, Osborn launched an ill-fated assault on Asgard, which led to his public downfall and mental breakdown. Future's End, The New 52. Future's End is an 11-month weekly comic book miniseries published by DC Comics from May 2014 to April 2015. It is set 5 years into the future of the New 52 timeline, and in this bleak future, Brother Eye, a sentient satellite, takes control of the world by turning most superheroes into grotesque cyborg bug versions of themselves. The series begins 35 years into the future, where Brother Eye's rule has nearly wiped out the human race, leaving only a small resistance behind. In a last-ditch effort to prevent this dystopian future, Bruce Wayne creates a time machine, hoping to travel back in time to stop Brother Eye's rise to power. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, Bruce is unable to make the journey, and his successor, Terry McGinnis, takes his place. Terry travels back in time, but only to the year 2025, which is 5 years too late to prevent the rise of Brother Eye. At this point, the villain's influence is already spreading, with Mr. Terrific working on the technology that will eventually make Brother Eye's domination possible. As the story unfolds, the world is in turmoil, shaped by the arrival of refugees from Earth 2. These interdimensional survivors are relentlessly pursued by the forces of Apocalypse, who engage in violent clashes with both Earth's heroes and civilians. With Earth's heroes becoming divided, Mr. Terrific develops technology to detect Earth 2 aliens, and several key figures, including King Faraday, Grifter, and Deathstroke, help imprison these refugees on Cadmus Island. Fortunately, the presumed dead Green Arrow, alongside his Earth 2 counterpart Red Arrow, spearheads a rescue operation to free the Earth 2 refugees. Meanwhile, Superman has taken on a darker, more mysterious persona, hiding his true identity behind a full-face mask. Lois Lane uncovers the truth. Shazam has been posing as Superman in Clark Kent's absence. When Clark returns to Earth, he brings grave news of an impending invasion by Brainiac. It is revealed that Brainiac has been manipulating Mr. Terrific, guiding him toward creating the technology that would enable Brother Eye's future reign. Brainiac's true plan is to capture New York City as part of his vast collection of civilizations across space and time. Superman, Mr. Terrific, the Atom, and Firestorm eventually defeat Brainiac by shrinking him down and trapping him. Meanwhile, Terry McGinnis teams up with a retired Tim Drake to stop Brother Eye's technological apocalypse. However, Terry inadvertently accelerates the process, ultimately sacrificing himself in the battle against Brother Eye. Tim then dons Terry's batsuit and travels back in time 5 years, convincing Brother Eye to ignore Earth 2's distress signal, which prevents the refugees from ever arriving on Prime Earth. Though this storyline takes place in a timeline that DC Comics has since abandoned, the New 52 Future's End stands as a memorable and disturbing event. It encapsulates a world overtaken by technology and villainy, making it a uniquely gross and impactful crossover in the DC universe. Forever Evil. Forever Evil is a 2013 to 2014 crossover comic book storyline centered around a miniseries written by Jeff Johns. The plot focuses on the villains of the DC universe and spins out of the events of Trinity War. In Forever Evil, the crime syndicate manages to take control of Earth, but they make a critical mistake by leaving two of the greatest minds in the DC universe, Lex Luthor and Bruce Wayne, free to plot and scheme. While the crime syndicate, a group of villains from an alternate Earth, believe their power is enough to handle any threat, they fail to account for Luthor and Wayne's ability to outthink and outmaneuver any adversary. The crime syndicate's downfall comes when Luthor, leading his own version of the Injustice League, begins working toward their defeat. In the end, the crime syndicate is vanquished, and Luthor's team of villains ends up becoming global heroes. Don't forget to subscribe before you check out the video showing on your screen right now.